Hi all, welcome to another episode of Saturday Architecture. Today, other than the usual suspects of Deepak, uh, who's from Microsoft, Nishanth and Jiffin from IBS, who are architects over there, we have Venkat with us. Venkat has been in the industry for more than 2.5 decades, easily, closer to three actually, and he's worked with all sorts of things from .vb.net to the latest thing which I saw him is demonstrating Power Automate and Power Apps. And I thought that it would be a good thing to have old experience. I'm talking as though I'm young. Okay. So you get a little satisfaction of calling another person old. Okay, so one of the things which he definitely talked about is low code, no code, right? How is it going to help us? Now, it sounds good. It sounds nice, but I wanted to look at what would be the challenges that we something is too good to be true. Maybe it is, right? And I think having played around with these RPA kind of tools, Power Automate, these things, Power BI, I've been able to do things, and I'm so probably after a decade, I'm really excited by technology because I can actually see the value that it can deliver in a short period of time with a minimal effort. But one of the couple of challenges which I kind of see shifting is just to give a starter, right? I would like to hear more from others. One is that, if you have to do technology, you have to write. Like I remember people who write Java code, right? C++ guys will look them like, you mortals. How can you write Java code? You don't free memory. Shame on you. And then the C guys will look at the VB guys. I mean, like we had another chat recently, remember, on Facebook. So like, you write VB code? Oh my God, what's wrong with you? How can you even call yourself a technologist or a programmer, right? That kind of mindset. If you have to have good technology sessions, you have to write big fat code, right? So that's one thing. Second thing is like now serious, where you call them experienced architects. What will they do if you do low code, right? What will they sit in the conference room and discuss? The whiteboards will become empty. How will they fill a big whiteboard? What will happen to Visio tool? Visio will die. Okay, so those kind of things is another thing that happens. And then the other interesting thing which I kind of realized probably in our last discussion was that you have to enable the end users of the business to do it. Now, I'm working with another organization on how to drive a citizenship developer. One of the challenges which I see there is the regular folks who really we want them to use. That is the business folks who can do that, right? They have the regular day job. They don't have free time to learn this. And they have a mental block like, technology program is not for me. And we as IT guys have made this very good. Telling that, technology is too complicated. It's not for the common man. Okay. Slightly taboo. It's something like we say it's for the elite is there. Okay. The common man, no code. You cannot do that. Okay. So that kind of psychology and mindset is built. So you have to break that and help. And then and who has to do this? It is the person who have to let go of power. It is the IT which has to do this. So it's a kind of paradox there, right? And they don't have that much of free time to learn something new. They have the regular BAU to be running. So these were the things which I was thinking, which if we can talk about, it would shed us some light when we think on this. And maybe others can actually kind of say, like, when you have automated build or CI/CD or code review. So if you have CI/CD, right, what does a configuration manager do? He cannot compile or build anymore, right? Something else is doing it. We had a configuration manager full-time role in companies. I don't know how many of them still exist as a full-time job.
No,
So
now they're called DevOps. Now they just changed their name. Now they're just called DevOps.
Oh, okay, I get it. It's like, when companies wanted to become digital, they did a search replace space with digital. So you're an engineer, you're a digital engineer, your operations, digital operations.
Yes, exactly.
Digital design like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now,
The thing is, we
all
shouldn't
those
start on
roles are now
such
just
a
called DevOps.
Deepak, we shouldn't start on a sadistic, cynistic tone, man. We should be more, little more positive and decent. So, Venkat, you are the your opening to you.
Thanks, Kumaran and others. Let me very briefly introduce myself to your audience. So I'm Venkatarangan Thirumalai. I've been an industry veteran. As he already said, I'm old, so let me call myself veteran. So about 25 years in the industry. I've started and run my own IT service company, which had offices in India, Seattle, UK, and we have been doing a lot of work as a partner to Microsoft, both for Microsoft's MSN network and for a lot of their media customers around the world. We also have our own content management system. And after like 20 years, I sold my business to another company, ran it as a CEO for the next few years. And I said, I've had enough with services. And for the time being, I quit, which my wife is not very happy because I'm around the house all the time. And Corona hasn't made it easy. I'm also a Microsoft Regional Director, an honorary title I've been holding for the last about 22 years, where I keep talking on many of the Microsoft events and quite passionate about Microsoft technologies. So I think that's a good brief about me. I blog regularly, over 1 million visitors to my blog in the last like 15 years. And I blog on all topics, whatever I can think of. And you can follow me at venkatarangan.com. So again, thanks.
And I think you should follow that. I think he gives a lot of, so one of the things which I got is from his blog, and if he recommends a movie, I see that it's not just a technology, right? More or less, his taste matches mine. He talks about anything from mic, spoon, your neighborhood tea shop, Jaipur, where you will get good tea, all sorts of things. Like it's like free for all.
Yeah, my point is, I'm not super intelligent or intelligent for that matter, so my memory is limited. So my blog becomes my memory. So I'm the biggest reader of my blog. The idea being, if I don't read my blog, no one else. So I keep reading and saying, wow, what a great author this person is.
Actually, that is a good motivator. That's a good motivator.
And I think, Venkat, I think what you just said, right, I think is a key to not just as Tiny Magic, you say delivering happiness, right? What you said is a key to happiness, whether it's a technology provider or anything. And I think Deepak and me, we used to keep telling this. We enjoy this talk, we will record it. If somebody sees it or not, that is their problem.
There is one thing you have to be careful, which I realized. If I keep telling my wife and my son, read my blog, I've written very well. Okay. Nowadays, I don't do that because it's injurious to my health.
Yes. Yes. They may give honest feedback.
No. My son might give honest feedback. It's my wife who I'm afraid of. So if I keep telling her, read my blog, how great I've written too many times, you know what happens. Okay, so my opening remarks, NoCode. I've been in the industry, I've run a services company where our biggest motivation is the number of people in a project should be more. So it's all man-month, time and material, per hour, and baseline. Yesterday I was talking to somebody on how important baseline maintenance is. That's the biggest money earner because you don't know to write new software, but you can at least try to ensure it runs. So those are very important. So what happens in this scenario? One thing, there is a lot of moving parts in my opinion, but that's a different discussion. We can probably take it later. Is that today's software, many of you would have talked, since it's an architecture talk, there are too many moving parts. Unlike earlier, earlier we could just catch hold of a Java application server vendor or a Microsoft or a Oracle because they will be giving you the end-to-end stack. There are a lot of good things. I'm not against. Today's world is very fascinating. The speed in which we can do stuff, the amount of things we can do today is unbelievable, even a couple of years back. So those are all wonderful stuff. But the thing is, there are too many moving parts. So we have to be cognizant of the fact. So software, in a sense, is becoming, it's a paradox. In a sense, it's becoming easy for everyone to come in. In a sense, it's becoming extremely too complex to manage. So we are in that somewhere in between. Earlier, it was probably at one side. Now it is somewhere in between, depending on your projects and thing. So for a couple of months, I've been researching because I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the future of software development by 2040. So that's a topic I've been researching in the last couple of years. couple of months. And I gave a talk recently in one of the Azure community events on what's going to be the future by 2040. So a lot of interesting things came up. I'll not go into all the details, but just 2 data points. One, so that starts with how AI and automation is going to influence the way you're going to start writing or you're writing code. A lot of tools that are available today or startups are promising you to reduce 50% of keystrokes when you're writing code, which means the last so many years we have been typing 50% more. Okay, so that's like the Apple product. When they come up with a new product, they will actually say what are the deficiencies in the previous product. So the best to find out is to go in a time machine next year and find out what is wrong with the current product. I also foolishly spent on an iPhone, but that's a different discussion. So we are in that spectrum. So one of the things that's going to be, when you look at the future, is going to be low code, no code, for a simple reason, I believe, is software is eating the world, yes. But if software is eating the world, somebody has to write code. So we don't have enough software engineers, enough developers worldwide, even with India, even with so many private engineering colleges in India, we can't churn out so many software engineers that the world is going to require. And I think we are only at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what AI, ML can do, not in terms of the magics, but in the quantum, the volume of projects they will be actually affecting. So in this scenario, we actually need a lot more software developers that we don't have. So we definitely need low code, no code environment. And by 2040, I think the no code will be not a discussion, but it will be the default. You will start writing is I don't know what is the word. You will be creating a software by no code. Only when required, you will actually go to low code, no code. It's like that. Today, we don't start building a car. We buy a car ready-made. And that's a very bad metaphor, but then that's the easiest I could think of on a Saturday morning after Kumaran waking me up. So that's with no code. So today we are in low code. So 2 data points. One I saw is Forrester has given a report last year that it is going to grow by $6.7 billion to $7 billion this year alone, 2020. And with the pandemic, I'm sure it's going to be more low code. I'm only talking low code. And next year, it's going to be 8 billion or plus 15% growth. I can't think of anything else in software, even AML, is it growing 15%, the spend year on year? I think I have my doubts. That's where low code is actually. And we can extrapolate it for the next 20 years. The amount of growth that low code will do is going to be phenomenal. And as it becomes more and more, the low code is gradually going to go and as I said, it's going to merge with no code. No code is going to be the default. Second, of course, when we talk low code, there is Microsoft Power Apps, there is Zogo Create, a lot of projects. A friend of mine has just started a company just to do Zogo Create projects. This company is a 20 people company. They are only creating software apps with Zogo Creator. So he's super focused. He said, let me specialize on one platform and then do, which typically 20 years back when we started, that's the model we used to do. He's kind of going back, but he's using Zogo Creator. That eliminates a lot of problems. Security, it's Zogo problem. Authentication, Zogo problem. Scalability, Zogo problem. He has to only focus on the business logic and the business problem, which today we hardly spend any time. Okay. Second,
just to add to that point, Venkat, I think that also means the thing which we used to struggle, right? He should know C, C++, data structures. The entry bar of who can be in that team also becomes lesser.
Yeah. That is a different thing which we'll talk later. How do you recruit people? So you're going to recruit from a college and say, I'm going to put you on Power Apps or Zogo Create. What is going to be the engineers? Will you be able to recruit people? That's a topic. I'll leave it.
We'll come to that later. Okay.
We'll come to it later. I want to present the second data point. So I was giving a talk on Power Apps a week back. So I was researching one of the good indicators is like the journalist go through Microsoft jobs postings or companies job posting to figure out what are they building secretly. Okay. Job postings, people will just, I don't know how foolish people could be or how thing, but then you look at the job postings. So I was looking at for Power Apps, is it really being used? So I did what every lazy person will do. I went to Naukri and Monster and search. I could see 28,000 job postings for Power Apps with the word Power Apps.
Wow.
28,000. And these are open job postings. And the second thing I did is I went to Upwork and searched Power. So Kumaran is validating. So typical engineer. So he's not believing me.
No, I'm.
He's making notes. I think he's making notes.
Yeah.
No, you are generous. I know him very well. Okay, so then I went to Upwork and searched how many of freelancers are working on Power Apps. I got at least about a couple of pages of scroll.
Wow.
Okay, so that means there is a demand, and the rates were all over the place. It's Upwork from $15 to $100, but then somebody was charging $100 for Power Apps, even if it's a advertisement. Wow. Probably Microsoft should put some dummy freelancers on Upwork. Anyway, so those are the two data points. You are having 15% growth year on year at a base of some $7 billion. And you're having some 27,000 job postings on Naukris and Monsters. And this is individually. Naukri alone had 27,000 job postings. So anyway, so that's the thing about low code. And I leave for this round, I'll just leave it with one thought. I've been speaking to one large IT service company delivery manager. He's saying they're using Power Apps as the front end for their Dynamics 365 to do the UI, because it's a lot more easier to do UI here than Dynamics 365. So when we talk about low code, it's also not only simple apps, it is also probably for complex apps. You can use it for the UI. We don't think of UI as a complex thing. UI is also complex. Any tool that can help you is also going to be appreciated. So I leave it for others to chip in, and I'll come back with some of my experience earlier on using.
So I have a question on how this is going to impact the way we manage software. So, of course, this is picking up. There is no doubt. You already mentioned those data points. But
I think, Deepak, I was just thinking one thing before. We could kind of split this into three parts, right? One is from a development angle, technology development. How does it impact that? Second would be the operational. Third would be the governance, which means like previously the control IT had, it won't have it. And then last but not the least is about the skill and the people part of how it will impact. So probably we'll split this four in this way. We could start. So I was just thinking.
So this is around how we do development related to that. And because a lot of people who listen to this part of our recording is the people who develop software. And
Nishanth and Jiffin, right? Feel free to jump in whenever you feel like.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we just said we are all into that. I forget that I have to offer you the mic. Just grab it from our hands. Okay.
So the question was that so we today, if you go to the quote unquote the DevOps world, right? So there are established ways of managing software, of creating the CI/CD and all these other things. They have, over the last decade, they have actually matured to the point where if you have a question, there is an answer for it, right? Of how you manage software, right? How do you test? How you do all those things, right? What is the situation with the low code, no code world? Does that even impact, or that is irrelevant to that? So do we need to manage that code, keep it? Because that code sprawl, then managing it, somebody wrote it 10 years ago. How do we keep track of it? All those problems means in the enthusiasm of going low code, no code, do we need to even care about that, or that is automatically sort of taken care of somewhere?
Okay. See, there is two parts. One, companies, Microsoft and others will also figure out how do you do version control, how do you do A/B testing kind of thing, and how do you release it, how do you manage it, how do you bring quality assurance and all that. They will complicate low code to that extent that it becomes unrecognizable a couple of years. And then there will be a new product. And then there will be a new product which says, oh, all that you don't have to do, we'll do something simpler. And that will be the new product which you'll have to subscribe or buy or whatever it is at that point in time later. But that's going to happen. Okay, that's a different story. I'm not worried about it. What I'm more interested is, does it? Today the problem is not about all this. That anyway is all DevOps and all that is, or even software delivery is mastered. You go to mythical man-month timeframes. It's been documented. We have argued whether software is an art, engineering, all that thing. That's not the part I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is today's pace in which business is changing. Can you empower the people at the line and give them an application today? One of the examples I saw, preparing for this Power Apps talk, is T-Mobile. A store manager was able to write an app in T-Mobile when the first lockdown happened in New York City. All the stores were, or not all the stores, all the metropolitan stores were closed, but the suburban stores were open. Many of the employees here were available, but the suburban stores were getting people, online was getting people. They needed people to go from here there. But then the central roster was so locked in that nobody else could actually think, or that store manager could only see their employees. That was the problem. So this store manager, with the permission of the IT, exported the data in a day. And in a day, he wrote a Power Apps where each store manager could see all the employees and then slot them in a time that you come to my store or you do this online, basically roster preparation. He was able to do in one day, and the next day they got it deployed. The third day, they were able to roll out this application because all of them were probably on Microsoft Office 365 platform. That is what we have to look. It's not about the next kernel, next mail server, next AI prediction model that we are writing. That's not the problem. There are enough and more engineers to do those things. Can I empower my line of work people with low code? Not necessarily they should do it. An engineer can also do it, but can he do it faster? Can he give it to me today evening? When my delivery manager used to tell my lead that any customer request comes, your default answer is, I don't know, I'll come back, or it is 2 weeks. Okay, it's flat 2 weeks. Can you change the heading of this web page? 2 weeks. You are safe because your manager is not going to scold you for telling you 2 weeks. And your client IT is not going to scold you because you told 2 weeks. Anything less than 2 weeks, boss, you got it. So that we have to get out. That is where I see.
I think I get the point where you're saying that we have to deliver today. And the investment which has to be made in that effort, even if tomorrow that application is not required, you're not losing as much if you had invested a huge amount of effort in creating this whole infrastructure to manage that application. So because it is this low code, no code, where there is the effort is less, the delivery is faster. Even if it is used for 10 days, it is already paid back.
Yes. No, there is also one more advantage if you think about it. Think about all the reporting tools we have built over the years. All the reporting tools have one point. It's like Excel. You can do, or you can export to Excel. Why is that? Because there is no way you can do a perfect report that an end user needs or a business manager, decision maker needs. So there, if you go attempt to do it, you will fail. So if you give it an Excel, let's say, boss, you figure it out. Excel is a great lifesaver for all reporting tools. If not Excel, it will have a lot of problems. So what Excel has done is empower people to do some changes, manipulate the data themselves. That role, if this low code can play, it's wonderful. That's the space I think they should also be going. One more advantage of low code is you can also treat it as a prototype, field tested prototype, that if it really works well, of course it's going to have some problems on scalability or data schema, whatever, though many of these tools are really sophisticated today. You can start it as a prototype and then build it as a proper project, a year-long project or whatever you want. So, and for you to do agile and keep releasing in an iterative fashion, low code is the best way to move.
I think that's a good point, right? I think, Nishanth, you had something.
One point actually I was thinking is like when we say the low code kind of development for building a software, it's basically like rather than we doing the code from the scratch, it's about we select multiple things, like it can be another technology or another component or another tool, and then orchestrate that into a final software that we are planning to build. So in that view, actually how much time we need to spend for that component or the candidate selection, like which thing we need to choose for building this thing, because industry is moving in a very faster way, and in each day we have n number of technologies, n number of tools getting released in the industry, and to find the right one to build a software which address our requirement. What is there any best practice, or is there any how much time we need to spend to find the right candidate to build our software in the low code culture?
Okay, so that's your question. Venkat, I'll ask one more question. Maybe together it makes sense or it doesn't make sense. You can do that. You're telling Excel, right? Okay. So one of the things is we also have this problem of Excel sprawl, right? Each Excel with a little bit of macro, it goes to another desk. They do a little more tweak, and then it takes, and then there are so many of these things which is lying there. It gives them that freedom, but that also builds in a lot of inefficiencies, because there is one small data, everybody's trying to do that same thing again. So and we kind of say it's like in the old hardware days, right? When I used to start working, we used to make separate boards for each of them. Like, I'm sure you also remember, for mic we had one extra add-on card, for hard disk we had one, for mouse we had one, right? And then it all became into one integrated card, then it went into the motherboard kind of a thing, right? So we had flexibility. When it became an integrated motherboard, sometimes even now I get frustrated. He said, sir, dust went, mic not working, what do you do? Change motherboard. Day. What is this kind of a thing, right? So probably I was just thinking, with respect to tool selection and this, there's a chance that we might have a low code sprawl, right? Which is going across all the different, each person does their own, like let's say it's just data entry, and it's an organization which has 50 stores. I might have 50 different versions of order entry, which might be inefficient if a business process change where everybody does that kind of a thing. That, and so many different tech, and this is assuming they do only one technology. So somebody might do an RPA to do the same thing. Somebody might use Power Automate to do it. Somebody might use UI Flow to do it within the same organization once we have empowered them. So I know it's very early stages. We are trying to kind of anticipate the problem and get it. Probably our old experience should help us in some way. So that's what I was curious on your thoughts.
Okay. So thanks. Those are two good questions, Nishanth. That's a very good point. So even as I was doing demos for Power Apps, okay, the amount of controls that are available today itself is a lot of controls. And this is also third-party services. All you have from your WordPress to Google Drive to Box, everything is there. So choosing definitely is a problem. But I think, as Kumaran was saying, we are in the early days. And if you go to Power Automate, the things that it can connect to is also a lot, and it's only going to keep growing. But that is, and also these tools are at their infancy. We are still talking about dragging and dropping a text box. 25 years back, when I first demoed Visual Interdev, that's what I did. And today in Power Apps, that's the same thing I did, dragging and dropping a text box and a button. I said, what is that we have come in the last 25 years? But that's only a starting point. I actually see the opportunity. We should change our mindset that there are more of these components created to solve my problems. Those templates in Power Apps really excite me. As we have more and more of those templates written, like PowerPoint, I'm not a designer. I like to choose the template that PowerPoint gives, not mess around with it. I've learned over the years, either a white PowerPoint or the ones that Microsoft professionally created, you are better off. Or you give it to a professional designer. Don't try to mix and match them. You'll have a problem. So in Power Apps, there is templates. You just use those templates, you are happy. Life is good. That's what I think things will go. And if anything has shown us, the Amazon marketplace, Flipkart marketplaces of the world, there will be enough marketplace if the market is incentivized for these pre-created templates that you can just instantiate. That's a big scope. We have to change mindset that everything we have to start with a main function and start coding. That's a very bad way. You just have to start composing applications. Composing again is a loaded word that people will start going again to is software a component? Is it engineered? Again, we are going into a different discussion. But then is how easy it is to do. And these controls have to become more and more with AI and ML. It should anticipate what am I trying to build and then try to build it for me. One of the things that is the direction that is very promising is the design ideas in PowerPoint. It's so wonderful. Based on the text that you type and the layouts and the data you've got, or the ideas in Excel, if it can come in Excel, why not it come in Visual Studio? Why not it come in Power Apps? It knows the data. It knows the problem I'm solving. It knows the backend, because we are all in SaaS and there is the Office graph, there is knowledge graph and all that. With that, can it actually build these for me more intelligently? That is where your problem will get solved. Of course, it is a big problem. And today vendors are still in the text box and all these API connections. They have to go to a level above. And going to Kumaran's question, I think about 10-15 years back when Microsoft first came up with the Excel server, if I'm remembering the name correctly, this was a component in SharePoint where you could take your business logic in Excel and expose it as a API
yes,
thing in
yeah,
SharePoint.
yeah.
I was so excited with that technology. I said, now I don't need to ask.
Till you told it, I actually forgot about it. Yeah. But yes, Excel services. Yeah. Correct.
Excel services.
Yeah.
And installing it on SharePoint was a 2-week project that we'll charge our customer. That's a different story. But I was really fascinated because a business domain expert could write the formula. And I don't need to take that formula and then make a mistake of it in C# or VB or whatever we are using. Because we could take the same formula because the same day he has written the formula. He or she has written the formula. And that exposing it. But then there were issues in those days. But if something like that, you could take your Excel sheet, put it on the web, and it suddenly becomes an application for you. It's wonderful. It's doable today. I'm not dreaming. It's very much doable. Technology is there to do it. So that is the kind of thing that will solve your problem. And we should also change our mindset of the sprawl and all that. Deepak said it correctly. We should be looking these as a quick and not dirty, quick way of writing applications. And IT can always control the backend data. If your data is rock solid, tight and secure with schema, whatever you're talking, then why you care what is the application that is manipulating it? Today, for example, I have say, let's take an example of a Word file. Assuming I don't have Word in all my devices, I use application A on Android to access my Word file. I use application B on my iPad. I use Microsoft's Word on my PC. On a Mac, I use something else. On a server, I use something else. As long as the fidelity of the doc file.
So just that extending, right? When you said data, would that also become a base API, the core, maybe just a little bit beyond CRUD into that data?
Probably.
So the IT focuses on making that rock solid. How you surface it, how you weave it together, we leave it up to the business.
Yeah. See, if one thing we have learned, we cannot predict even what's going to come 2 years, 5 years from now. What application is going to pick up, and nobody imagined TikTok. Again, a consumer example because it's easier to get it. But then we don't know what's going to come. So all we can predict is data is going to be important. There is going to be business logic that's important. How or why the users use it. As long as they solve the business problem, why should we care?
Okay. So, Jiffin and Nishanth, right? What have your experiences been in when empowering users? So let me give an example, right? I'm coming to the people part or the last part of what we want to come. I mean, this is an evolving thing. We can probably be discussing it 5 years later. Hopefully we would have made progress, or maybe we'll be in the same place. I don't know. Okay. But from a people perspective, right? I think Venkat will vouch for me on this. Most of the reporting tools, right? It's self-service. Build your own reports. Okay. It's been there, like every report tool will come with this claim, I've got this thing, right? The business can build their own report. But in my experience, I haven't seen even 1%, beyond 1% of end users developing their own report. It never really happened. That remained a pipe dream or a wish itself. Maybe Venkat, if your experience was different, but luckily in the last Saturday architecture, one guy actually disproved it. I was happy to hear that. But you can share in both your experiences, right, Nishanth and Jiffin, when you kind of gave something like something which the end user could do, could be a little configuration, little development. How has your experience been? Have they been able to, they have to do some learning, some extra effort. Did that happen? If yes, what? If no, what have you learned from that?
Yeah. As you know, since we both are, especially we are working in a product-based things, that is a minimum or a bare minimum demand from all our customers, because they want to do or play around with our software, and they have to do it by themselves. So even we right now as a product, as a SaaS model, actually we are following that practice. Like even for one recent experience that I would like to share is like, the automation things. This automation tool that we have created, actually we thought to create a tool and share it to the other internal customers so that they can easily build their scenarios just by putting some formulas in the Excel or some kind of interface. So actually that's a because as a company or as a product, actually we should really think where we need to put more time or where we should invest more. If we have to because this kind of things actually giving us more space for other kind of innovations, to spend quality time for building new kind of things rather than, because if we think in a different way, like if we build a software or if we build a tool that need many manual intervention or that really need a major support from the actual service provider, then which means that we have to spend more time for that kind of management rather than investing more on for the other innovative kind of things which would eventually help to build product to the next level. So from a
So,
product company point of view, it is really an important culture that we need to care, like this low code things is very important.
okay. So basically, if I kind of understand what you're trying to say, as a IT or a product developer, I should be thinking what are the capabilities or tools which I can put, which can be used by the end users. How easy would it put? So currently we only think end users. Rather, what you're thinking, the mindset should be how can the end users modify this if they want to?
Correct, correct.
Okay. Jiffin, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, my team. I was working. I'm working in the service part of the IBS area. So we actually getting more requirement from the. We deliver more like a portal applications. Okay, where there could be a lot of end users, or we are powering the front end for the IBS products. Okay. So the recent discussion which I had, one of the customers, like they are looking for more option where they get better control to change by themselves. They don't want to have a kind of a dependency with IPS when they want to engage their end customers more. In
Okay.
other
So,
way, they prefer to have changes more frequently in the UI side. It could be modifying any control, giving different options, or kind of bringing some engagement modules like subscriptions or rewarding, kind of a mutual interaction. Okay, so most of the cases, all this becomes a blocker in terms of time. Okay, take kind of an 1 month time if they comes to us and we make some changes, make the release, etc. So I was trying to relate with things. If we can have kind of an micro component model where powering something similar to Power Apps, where people can build themselves, because their requirements are not really with the backend data, because their requirement is more about consuming the data and make the changes in the UI. So I see this would be more in terms of money, especially they need not spend. But I see time is a factor, because customers, when they speaks about these requirements, they're looking for the time. Can we get it by like in a week or so, or eliminating that process, like change request process, which we say that.
yeah.
So they don't want to eliminate that. I think this is a very good concept. I was just referring in the Google meanwhile we speak. So
I think what
I
you're
have
telling
a
is,
question.
yeah.
It's more related with the Microsoft technology, right? So we are into Java applications. So I was trying to see like how we can make use of things in the Java related applications, or in the other way we are building. Yeah, kind of how is there any tight dependency with Microsoft, or can we use it for? I saw the plugins for YouTube and Google, etc. When I search, so I
So I
believe
think
this is possible.
before I go that, right, like probably let me plug in a couple of things as both of you were talking. I think this was about empowering the end users, right? I think both of you, one thing which I did note is clearly that the IT should spend more time to build the building capability for the end user. And kind of taking off from what Venkat has just said, it's about building certain templates. Like you said, discounting, right? The discount should be a component. Now they can add it into any screen. So they will take a product screen, add a discount component, which means that product will get discounted and they can configure it. So that could be the compose part which Venkat was. So we should be focused, rather than developing the end solution, I think of making these components which can be assembled by the end user depending on their needs that they have. But of course, this leads to a very tricky question, as especially in India, we are hugely dependent on services. If the customers develop it themselves, what will I do for my food? And my family will die of hunger. A different thing about change requests, we will again take that as that's a big monster. We will have to tackle that in 2-3 episodes. But this component building, and also it's kind of got to do with when you build components, like let's say a technology for tying this comes from Microsoft, and what you're telling is something is in Java. How do these things play together? And on training people, how was your success? Are the end users willing to learn something new? Because they have a regular job. They are sales guys, they are business operations guys. Have you seen them learning something new? And Venkat, how has your experience been? Right, I was just taking the self-service report kind of a thing. How has your experience been, and how do you help them get more enthusiastic about learning?
Couple of things that came up. One, I'll take your big elephant in the room that you answered. What's going to happen to software jobs? Because that's another talk. And is AI going to take your job? That's another talk I gave. I researched and I put some data points on that. But what I found out, or my perspective or on my take on that, it's certainly not going to be the case. It's an unnecessary boogeyman we are worried about. What is going to happen is the entry level, who we are just calling software engineer, they are just doing very simple configurations and just maintaining baseline. Their jobs are going to be threatened. It's better be threatened. What value are they adding to the customer? Are you wearing a CEO hat? Why am I paying $20, $30 for somebody who's just changing a CSS color? That should be done very easily. It's just pathetic software writing. We write bad software and then we put more people to maintain it. Okay, so you can't have the
public recording. Venkat, what is this? You can't bite the hand that feeds you.
This is the tire puncture problem.
So I don't need to defend anything. Now, if I start services company again, I'll ask you to delete this video. So anyway, so coming back, we have to go up in the value chain. It is going to be our industry. What it does, we make things, we destroy, or destroy is a very powerful word. I don't subscribe to it. We take away some jobs. In many of the areas we automate. We took away typist role. We took away dictation roles and so many roles. That's not a problem. We have to go productive. So people have to learn. So software engineer, if they know whatever basic, let me take anything people are going to take offense. Let me take offense to all people. They're all probably old. I can run away from them. So
when you just said take offense, right? I mean, we keep taking the small digressions. I guess it's okay. I get reminded of that Vivek and it's not Vadivel and this comedy, no? So all of you might have seen that, right? So this guy will say, here good fishes will be sold. And then you keep eliminating it. What? Here good fishes. Then everything will end up with the empty blank and you can't have any opinion. So yeah, go ahead.
Engineers have to go up the value chain. They can't be just doing configuration. They can't be doing, I've been a COBOL developer for 20 years. I'll continue with that. That's not how world works. Okay, so we have to take the fact. If we are not changing, if say the Americans and Indians are not changing, Chinese are going to come with a new way of software development, or somebody else is going to come. So change is the constant. So we have to be ready for it. So that is number one. So if people are going up, more software is going to be written. Who's going to write these low-code, no-code environment? It's going to be an engineer. Who's going to put it on a data center? It's going to be an engineer. Who's going to ensure it's running? So far, robots cannot connect a network cable. So that's probably not in our lifetime, hopefully. So data centers are going to give enough jobs to, not enough, lot of jobs. And as you are having more of these sophisticated, see, today we are still talking dragging, dropping text box. I'm talking about, can I dictate to a voice assistant and can it write an application by itself, like what we see in science fiction movies? For that, we are at least 30, 40, 50 years away.
Yeah.
To write that, we'll have millions or billions of engineers are needed. So why are we afraid? We have so many problems to solve. And all our software so far written are all junk. Even if we have to rewrite, we have enough work. That's one. So I'm a very optimistic guy on that. You will definitely have work if you're ready to relearn. That's very difficult, but if you have to, okay, I can't learn AI. Let me learn a no-code environment. If I come from Visual Basic or COBOL, Power Apps or Zogo Create is going to be extremely easy for me because I understand at least how a logic flow happens. End user, the biggest problem with Excel functions or with any flow charting drag tools is logic flow. That is what engineering taught me in college, nothing else. It didn't teach me. I'm an electronics engineer. You give me a simple radio, I can't tell you I can tell you the components because I wrote it in exam, but I can't repair it for you. I can't solder it cleanly.
My little bit of cynicism is again popping out. Engineering colleges taught me to record and play only. Logic, you are lucky to be in a college like that. Most colleges say record and replay only.
So, but what engineering taught me, which I still value those 4 years of training that I went through, it allows me to think logically. It allows me to take a problem, analyze, write, and then even if I have to copy from the next guy, it taught me what is that I have to copy. I'm not copying a chemistry answer on a physics. It told me go logically and analyze on data. That training is what has helped me all these years. So that people, if they know any one programming language, with low code, no code, it's going to become extremely easy. Okay. And as a manager, wearing a manager hat, if my engineer comes and says, this is going to take me 2 months, if like the T-Mobile example, I can write it in low code environment in a day and show it to the engineer, I'm going to push his or her ego and self-esteem to make it more faster and give it to me in 2 days. So every pointy-eared Dilbert boss should learn low code. Okay, let me tell you one thing, and then I think we have to give more respect to the end users. Think of this example, very simple example. All of us have experienced. Our moms and our grandparents, who would have thought 5 years back they'll be using an application which can allow them to do chatting, share location, do payment, do video calls, do voice recording, do photo sharing. Okay, nobody would have thought. We said, boss, this requires a BE engineering for them to do. Today, WhatsApp has done that. And I don't see, at least in my area, in Chennai at least, we don't see WhatsApp training institutes. Or WhatsApp training videos. We don't see.
Very good point. Very good point. Yeah.
If my grandmother can learn to use WhatsApp, of course, it took her a year. First, she could only see the pictures. That's perfectly fine. So if grandma can learn WhatsApp, why not a person with a master's MBA can learn a low-code environment? It's not our forfeit. And if you give me a minute more, I'll give you a good example what Fanish Murthy gave.
Yeah.
So we have to give respect to users. That is the most important. IT's control, that horse has left the barn long time back. We are living in a dream world where IT can control what you live, breathe, eat every single day. All that is gone. Either we coexist, make the life easier for the end users, or we are out of jobs. Some other cloud vendor will come and say, we'll give you all this. You don't need an IT team. You'll lose your job. Better you at least your job by helping the end users. Okay, what Fanish Murthy told about 15 years back, I think he just started running his new company when he came out of Infosys. He made a very valid point that over the years, it's left a deep mark in me. You think about in the early 90s, when I was in school, college, one of the biggest thing was a RAD application called Matrix. Kumaran might have heard about it. It was a DOS-based thing where you can actually do a flow chart and it will generate C++, C, Pascal, Fortran, basic code. If I remember, I'm missing a couple of those.
Wow. Okay.
Do a flow chart.
Okay.
It will generate source code in all of these languages, and you can compile in any one. And it was beautiful. You could write component. I don't know C, but I want to write a component in C for performance reasons. I can do in this flowchart thing, and it's very rudimentary in today's sense, but that's not the point. So there were tools like that, and Power Builder had just come in and taking over the world in those days. and all that stuff. And Visual Basic, I think 4 came around that time, which was taking points from that and trying to do things. They were not RAG tools in the true sense, but they were the very early generations of those RAG tools. But this matrix was really powerful. For whatever reasons, it died and all that. So what Manish Murthy said, the RAG tools in the mid-90s were a rage, and IBM and everybody was pouring in money to improve those rapid application development tools. Then suddenly, Indian IT service company, including Manish Murthy and others, TCS, landed in the Western world and said, boss, you are spending millions of dollars on inventing a RAG tool, which is going to give you output after 10 years, 20 years. And we all know software projects fail. And all these RAG tools have failed, many of them in the investments for the company it made and all that. Instead of $100, I'll give you person at $10. I'll give you 10 of them. Wow. And everybody started outsourcing. He's simplifying the thing. So don't take verbatim. So his actual quote is in my blog. So for people, for reference sake, if you want to go, you can look at it. So he said, instead of money going to RAG tools, that whole industry was killed by Indian IT service company. Okay, so what's going to happen is, if the industry has to find a new way to kill these low code, no code. But there is no incentive for the industry today because all the biggies are running cloud, and the investment comes on more compute power and more storage you're using, which whether it is low code or no code or whatever it is, why do you care?
I think one key point which I did kind of get from what you just said is, don't underestimate the end user's capabilities, right? And I think probably my experience is about that, using those report tools and end users having not used it. I'm just taking that too much to heart. I think I should leave the traumatic experience to the side.
All of us will have that experience, Kumaran. My point is, it's not the end users at fault. That's the point I leave. It's our tools that we gave were either not good, or too early, or too fragile, or too incapable, or whatever.
Okay, I get it. So that's kind of interesting. It's like in hyper.
Your data point is correct, but the inference you are coming from it is not correct.
Okay. It's kind of interesting. In the HypoHub, that's our tiny magic framework, right? That there's responsibility and fault mode. And I kind of tell my mentees be in responsibility mode, and I was in a classical fault mode. I had made that mistake, faulting the end users, whether responsibility is, whether it is Power Builder or Report Builder or anybody, query writer, the tool was not good enough for them to use it. It's the IT capability that we had built on how they can do it was poor. It was a poorly designed self-service tool. Let's put it that way. Hence, they didn't use it.